Hey everybody, Blair here. Can you hear me and see me okay? I was having some issues with my video camera, so I actually took my good webcam down. Okay, D'Arcy says she sees me. Jennifer, okay, we're good to go. As long as you guys can see me and hear me. I would love for you guys to, connect with each other and talk to each other in the chat. I love to hear where everyone's calling in from. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know. So we've got some Academy members here too. And for Academy members, if anyone has questions that you can maybe answer while I'm presenting, I would really appreciate you sharing your experience in the Academy with other people and kind of trying to point them in the right direction. So we've got people from Florida, Iowa, Louisiana, Texas, Michigan. Oh my goodness. Hey, Jamie. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. So everyone can see me and hear me. I don't want to hold you guys up any further. So let's go ahead and get started. I will tell you that while I'm on the screen sharing mode, I won't be able to see the chat. So you guys will be able to see me. You guys will be able to chat with each other. And so feel free to do that while I'm presenting. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see my screen, or at least half of my screen? So I will go ahead and get started. Pull up my slides here. So welcome to the GXR PH. This is the live webinar that I put together so that I could explain a little bit better about my thoughts around building a genomics consulting practice. And the feedback that I was getting was that, people would take the pharmacogenomics certification test or, learn about it, and then it would kind of leave them feeling like, what should I do next? So what we're going to learn today and what we're going to discuss today, it's going to be several different things, but mostly we're going to be talking about 3 different approaches or 3 different models for successful genomics services. We're going to talk about the 2 action steps that I felt had the biggest impact on me moving forward with my business, and a little bit about how I got started on my genomic journey, and also how you could get help on your path and what that could look like for you, especially in the Academy. So for those 3 approaches, we're really going to nail those approaches down to identifying a niche in community pharmacy, integrating services, clinical services with genomic consulting and primary care, and learning how to sell these services in standalone and synergistic businesses. So if you guys have never joined me on a webinar before, here's what I can promise you. I promise that I will be transparent, and one of my core values is honesty. So this is going to be unlike any other pharmacy training you've probably ever done before. My style is more entertaining, more inspirational, and a little bit less rigid and professional. So you're going to see me use pictures of my kids and funny gifs and things like that, just to keep you entertained. And, I don't want to bore you to death. I do not see myself as an expert. And so I will tell you up front, I see what I'm creating and the content I'm creating for you guys as to be adding to the overall conversation. So I see myself as a contributor to the whole. The ultimate goal is advancing the professional pharmacy, and I feel like I can only do that when I can lift others up and bring others with me. So the goal is to train others that can then build upon the work that I've already started. So I do not offer any CEs for this webinar, for the GXR PH business course, for anything in the Academy, because of my promise about transparency. I want to be very realistic. If something I think doesn't work well, I will be the first to say it. If something's a waste of time, I will say it. And if there's something that I think will help you move to the next level, I will recommend that. If there's something that's in a gray area, I will tell you that. So CE kind of binds our hands whereas we can't say certain things and we can't give our opinions on certain things when it comes to CE. So I'm going to go through kind of what I see as my step-by-step approach to business. I'll go through these slides for about 45 minutes, and then I'll leave time for Q&A at the end. So you will absolutely have time to ask me questions at the end. So if you have questions throughout the course, feel free to write it down. I've also got some FAQs that I had people submit in advance that I will answer at the end as well. So also towards the end of the call, I'm going to share about how you can get extra help if you want to work with me, if you want to take your business to the next level. And then as a special bonus, remind me to show you and to walk you through. I've got this new, you can't see very well because my printer kind of ran out of ink, but it's a pharmacist quick reference guide to gene SNPs. So I will be sending that out after this call, but remind me to take a few minutes and explain how I use it in my business towards the end. It's a cheat sheet for gene SNPs. It's got about 70 different gene SNPs on it, and I've got it broken down into which SNPs affect which conditions in the body. So this used to be a spreadsheet. I had my designer make it a little bit prettier than what I had it. So first, let me start by talking about how I got into this business to begin with. So many of you know my daughter, I was 6 months pregnant with her whenever I lost my job as a clinical pharmacist in 2014. I then picked up shifts at local independents, began running their MTM programs for them, and in doing that, other pharmacists started contacting me saying, hey, you know, how do I get out from behind the bench? I want to go do work like this where I'm focusing on clinical services and MTM in the community pharmacy. So I took on a few clients. I worked one-on-one with them, eventually built out the academy to explain to them exactly how they could build an MTM consulting business in a community pharmacy. Kept building on it, and people were coming back to me saying, okay, now I want to go out and work in a physician's office. So we built lessons 7, lessons 8, and 9, and talked about chronic care management, talked about collaborative practice agreements and incident 2 billing. And so the academy has really grown and evolved and continued to build on itself based on what members have told me that they need. So this latest lesson we did was on cash-based services. And so it talked a little bit about genetic testing, but it also talked about other stuff as far as health and wellness consultations and functional medicine stuff. And this latest training, the GXR PH training, which I just posted in the academy, was for the pharmacist who maybe they've already done the pharmacogenomic certification, but they're just not sure where to go next. So I built this training to answer that question, what next? What can I do next? And so we are in this time of what I call career climate change. And the way that I see pharmacists utilizing genomic data is in consulting patients, but also consulting other healthcare professionals on it. We know the most about pharmacokinetics and how the cytochrome P450 system metabolizes drugs. So I really think that this can be our area of expertise. So essentially, you know, I've got pharmacists coming to me saying things are changing. I'm looking for something different. So I love getting information and messages like this from pharmacists who, this one had reached out to a local physician and talked about, you know, the things that a clinical pharmacist can do embedded in a physician's office. And the physician pretty much told her, you know, I've been begging administration to get me a clinical pharmacist to help me with quality measures. So they were very excited that this has now become a reality for them. And it was something that it was there, the opportunity was there, they just weren't sure how to act on it. So I say, you know, my ultimate goal is advancing the profession of pharmacy, and I hope to do that by helping other pharmacists like you become the pharmacist to call. So the 3 approaches we're going to talk about for successful genomic consulting, as I mentioned, are going to integrate finding your niche, integrating additional services that can complement genomic testing, and then also looking for synergistic businesses. Where can this business model and these tests make sense outside of community pharmacy or primary care? So approach number 1 is the community pharmacy genomic testing model. So I like to focus on a specific niche when you're starting a business. So think really, really small when you're starting a new service. It could be weight management for people with a BMI over 40. It could be nutritional supplementation for women who are trying to conceive. It could be a DNA-guided elimination diet for someone with food allergies. What I think niching down does for us is it helps us be successful by really honing in on our message. You can always try to broaden that message to capture more people, but I think it's best when you're starting a new service to think very, very small. So remember, the 3 things that people are willing to pay for is something that's going to make them more money, something that can give them more time, convenience, whatever, and then something that will help them improve their status. So get more love or sex or whatever it may be. So health kind of plays into that as well, but I think you need to frame it in a little bit different way. So is it weight management? Is it trying to conceive? Is it reducing allergies for, more freedom from suffering from these symptoms? So whatever it may be, think of a niche in terms of those 3 things. Those are the 3 things that people are willing to pay for. So this is what I always hear from pharmacists whenever I'm talking about cash-based services. And that's really what we're talking about mostly when we're talking about genomic consulting in a community pharmacy, is niche services that are cash-based. Everyone tells me my customers won't pay for anything out of pocket. Everyone says this to me. Literally everyone from the East Coast to the West Coast, urban areas, rural areas, everywhere. But as Seth Godin says, everyone is not your customer. So what we're talking about when we're talking about niche services is identifying the person that needs your service. And so I mentioned a few examples, and I mentioned the 3 things that people are willing to pay for, which make them more money, time, or love. So right now, there's $196 billion alternative health and wellness industry. So these people are currently paying someone for these types of services. It's just at this point, not us. So the Academy members know that I preach, find your niche, find your niche, find your niche. And it is difficult. So I'll tell you a little bit. Whenever I started my genomic consulting business, I had my son in 2017. And when he was born, he has a very, very deep sacral dimple. And it was so deep that the neonatologist was concerned that it was actually an open neural tube. So I went and did just a regular direct-to-consumer test. It didn't really tell me much. It came back that I had increased risk for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, which, as you'll hear on the training, my maternal grandmother has Parkinson's, and my paternal grandmother, she actually passed away having Alzheimer's. So this definitely runs on both sides of my family. So I started trying to work my way backwards and figuring out why. Well, both of those are linked to hyperhomocystinemia, which can be caused by an MTHFR mutation, so inefficiencies in the methionine pathway. I did a genomic test on myself, and then I did a nutrigenomic test on myself, and then I took the pharmacogenomic certification course, and eventually figured out the people I really wanted to work with were kids that had ADHD or some other mental, like anxiety or depression, being caused by if they were on stimulant medications or in conjunction with the ADHD. So one of the things that I did when I started my cash-based genomics consulting business was really focus on speaking directly to that market. So all the marketing images I used had a mother and child in it, because I was talking to the mother about pharmacogenomic testing for ADHD medications and other psych medications. So all the blog posts I was writing, all the pictures I was using, even down to the coloring on my website, had to do with focusing on the parent of a child with ADHD or some other mental health. So I started there because I felt that these people were looking for either the right stimulant medication, or some of them were coming to me because they were looking to avoid stimulant medication and find out if there's other alternatives, such as pharmaceutical supplements and things like that would help their child. So I'll talk more about that in the GXR PH business course, but that was my initial niche that I started with. And even though not all of my patients that came to me fit that niche exactly, it was a good place to start, because it instantly allowed the person who I was sharing it with to go, oh, I know who would be a good client for you. And so if you are talking about something like this, that's how niche you need to be. And so I always say niche till it hurts, because the more niche you can be, the more referrals you're going to be able to get, because someone says, you know what, I know the exact person who would be a great fit for your service. So unless you've got people saying that to you, you're not niche down enough. So the second model that I want to kind of talk about, or the second approach, is using genomic testing in primary care. So on the GXR PH business course, I'll talk more about billing. I'll talk more about different panels. I'll talk more about labs to use. But for this training, first, I want to talk to you about the different integrated services that you can use genomic testing in. I don't necessarily see genomic testing as this standalone service that is a business model of its own. In fact, I think it's more powerful as part of more of a well-rounded service. So treating patients with mental health, as I mentioned, with my target market, with children diagnosed with ADHD, whether or not they were on pharmacologic intervention. You could look at people for thyroid issues. A lot of what we're seeing now with thyroid issues can be caused by autoimmune. Cardiovascular, of course, one of the main uses of genomic testing in primary care is in cardiovascular, trying to decide, is this person a candidate for clopidogrel therapy or not? Are they a rapid metabolizer of 2C19, or are they a poor metabolizer? And so if you've done any of the pharmacogenomic certification courses, they really focus on cardiovascular, using genomic testing for cardiovascular patients. Also, we're seeing some more panels come out that were intended to help with opiate use. So that's deciding which opiates are best for the patients, which can, decrease their risk for having adverse reactions or whatever. So my thought is that integrated services plus genomics equals improved care. And I see it as a full model. I don't really see genomic testing as a standalone business model at this time. I think you've got to figure out how to integrate it with other services and position it as a quality thing. So this is one of my beliefs, is that pharmacists need to find ways to integrate our expertise with clinical services in order to improve quality metrics. I think that's the key to advancing the profession of pharmacy, to embedding ourselves in primary care. I think that genomic tests are great, but they also have to be used as a tool. I mean, it's just one tool in your consultant's toolkit. So whether you're integrating a genomic test with an annual wellness visit, or you're using a genomic test in order to build a care plan for chronic care management around this test, whatever it may be, I think finding ways to show this is the test and this is how we integrate it into additional services so that we can get these results for the patient. That's how you present the genomic test, not just, I've seen some testing companies that they want pharmacists to go out and just pitch their product to physicians' offices, which is fine if the physician's office only wants access to the lab and that's it. What I see as a better option is to offer the test and then offer the pharmacist's expertise in interpreting the consultation as part of that whole service. So if you guys haven't read Sachin Jain's article about reinventing primary care in the United States, it's a Forbes article in which he said pharmacists are not only trained in medication, they're also trained in how to engage people, including patients and doctors. This often translates into the kinds of influence skills needed to change patient and physician behaviors alike. So I love that this is what a physician was seeing for us and seeing for advancing the profession of pharmacy. So I found this statistic, and though I don't love the use of statistics because no one really remembers them in presentations, I found the statistic in an article that was talking about medication adherence, and it was talking about exactly what I just said, is integrating pharmacist services and our ability to, influence patient behaviors and physician behaviors, that we currently spend about $290 billion on medication adherence issues in the United States each year. So what I like to always go back to is looking at what does this primary care physician or what does this clinic need? What are they looking for in a clinical consultant pharmacist? And in the academy, I try to give a lot of different opportunities. So we talk about MedRec, we talk about chronic care management, transitional care management, and also genomic testing. And so I feel like each of these is an opportunity to add to your consultant toolkits. I'm not necessarily saying that you can choose one of these and it be a standalone business model, but here's the options that you could do as a consultant pharmacist. Take that to your local physician's office, start a conversation about what their needs are, and then let it naturally evolve from there. So I thought this was fun. You can be successful if you can seamlessly integrate pharmacogenomic testing into quality measures. And in lesson 10 or 11, I believe, at the Academy, I go through quality metrics and what that means in MACRA, and specifically what can be done to impact these quality metrics by a pharmacist using our strengths that we already have. So this is all about leveraging the strengths you already have, not having to go out and learn something brand new in order to do this. And if you guys know me, you know I've talked about the challenges that we always feel like we don't have enough training or we don't have enough expertise in a subject to go out and pitch our services. So this was a huge issue for me, and it did have a big impact on my business when, you know, it was actually my business coach that said to me, Larry, you don't need to go back to school to get an MBA in order to run a successful business. And the same thing that I have been telling you guys is you don't have to have it all figured out before you actually start taking steps in order to get where you want to go. So approach number 3, we're going to talk about the independent consultant model or the standalone consultant model. In the GXR PH business course, I talk a lot about synergistic business collaborations, ideas from anywhere from community pharmacies, which can be a good setting, a good synergistic businesses in which to pitch your independent consulting services, even to chiropractors' offices. So I think there's a lot of collaborations and synergistic business opportunities that we sometimes overlook by getting tunnel vision on we either are community retail pharmacy or we are in primary care. Also, you know, with the independent or standalone consultant model, you get to host your own clients. And unless you're highly dependent on someone who is referring to you, like one of these synergistic businesses, you're going to have to learn how to sell and market yourself. And so that was the intention with the new course, is an A to Z course that you don't have to jump around in the academy, like to get the part about speaking and then the part about LLC formation. This new training is kind of meant to be encompassing from start to finish on your consulting business model. So I will say that this, you know, was me before I started working with my sales coach, Nikki. And I found myself, I would say, you know, I'd love to work with you. Here's my price. And then, you know, before even giving the person a chance to respond yes or no, like I would just quickly say, but you don't have to decide now. You don't have to decide now. Like, just tell me later. And, you know, what Nikki says essentially was just, this was a cop-out. This was me just, you know, afraid of rejection. And I was self-sabotaging by not giving that person a chance to answer. You know, maybe they said yes, but maybe they would say no and have some great feedback that I needed to hear. So many of us do have a fear of selling. And I will say that there isn't a wrong way of doing this. There is no wrong way to do anything in business unless you're doing something unethical. But there is an easier way to have these conversations. And, you know, a lot of this business information I got outside of pharmacy. So I went to my business coach, who is not a pharmacist. I went to a sales coach who is not a pharmacist. I went to a speaking coach who's not a pharmacist. I'm probably in the upcoming months going to start working with a publicity specialist who's definitely not a pharmacist. And the whole point of going into these other industries and bringing stuff back is no one was teaching this stuff in pharmacy. I was having to learn it outside of pharmacy. And I really wanted to bring back these concepts. So, you know, my thought was that I would go out and I would figure out how, email marketing was working. And then I would bring it back to pharmacists who own their own businesses and wanted to use email marketing to sell their services. So one of the things that the Farmerpreneur Academy members told me was they wanted what they called sales scripts in order to know what to say when getting on the phone with like a potential, collaborative physician that they were wanting to work with or something like that. So what I did, I went out and I asked my personal sales coach to come into the Farmerpreneur Academy in our January member call and do a training for us. And I love what Nikki says. She says selling is extending an invitation to work together. So she did our training in January and talked about, leveraging relationships, using some name dropping, using some stories about, people that the person you're talking to may know, like mutual patients or mutual colleagues or whatever. And so she shared a lot of scripts and email scripts and also call scripts. And one of the things she talked about was the power of a story. And I saw someone had shared on Instagram, I think it was Ashley Hayes. So she was talking about the power of being able to tell your story. So just like at the beginning of this webinar, when I told you my story about losing my job when I was pregnant with Avon, all the way up to discovering, and starting on my own genetic testing journey after Hoyt was born, that is all part of my story. And I know all the stats that I quoted before then, you guys were like, so how many billions of dollars was spent on medication adherence issues? Yeah, you don't remember that, but you remember the stories I told about my own genetic tests and the stories I told about building my business, Genetic Consults, because I think that's helping you connect with me. And in the same way, when you are reaching out to potential prospects or collaborative physicians or even patients when you're doing the direct selling model, think about stories that you can tell them so that they can, find some kind of common ground and resonate and be able to connect with you on a deeper level. It's so much easier than, trying to just wow someone with a bunch of statistics or a list of what all you can do. So this was from an Academy member. People were raving about Nikki's masterclass. So she said, I wanted to thank you. Not only did I learn so much from it, I gained more confidence to approach physicians in my area. And someone else said, I feel more confident now to approach others when I'm trying to sell something or just when talking to others in general. It was so beneficial. Another Academy member said that there was so many life hacks and life skills mentioned in the masterclass that she actually shared some of the scripts and some of the circle back technique, I think, in particular with her teenage sons and her husband. So I absolutely love hearing that, because this is one example of many in taking something that you feel is a weakness and shifting your mindset around it, because selling is really in your mind a lot of the times, saying that you're not good at selling yourself. I almost never say anymore that I'm not good at something. And whenever, I hear friends of mine say they're not good at doing their hair, they're not good at, XYZ sport, or they're not good at putting clothes together, they're not good at cooking. I never tell myself that anymore, because I have learned that the more we tell ourselves that we aren't good at something, the more that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I always say I'm not like a woo-woo person, but maybe I'm getting to be just one woo, because I've been doing a lot of mindset work myself, a lot of meditations and stuff. And I do feel like much of the reason why we tell ourselves that I'm not good at selling, or I'm not good at cooking, or whatever it may be, is because we keep telling ourselves that we're not good at that, instead of learning how to reframe it, learning how to do it, getting support, a mentor, and learning those skills, so that then you can reframe it in your mind and say, you know what, that conversation went really good. I think maybe I am good at selling. And this is something that has been one of the biggest shifts in my business, is getting mentors and getting business coaches to help me overcome these limiting beliefs, and then also having the support of other people, like in my masterminds. They're telling me and really calling me out whenever I say I'm not good at doing this or that. Then, saying, is that something that you're using to procrastinate in order to not do the thing that you're actually just really scared of doing? So I hope that you're kind of excited now, and I'm excited to share with you this new training, because I mentioned, at the very beginning of this, that I was going to show you these 3 different approaches and show you some ways that you can integrate consulting or genomic consulting into your business. And so now I want to talk about how to move forward once you've identified your business idea. So you've seen some of the results that other pharmacists are getting in the academy using my approach. The first kind of arm to that approach would be overcoming self-sabotage and limiting beliefs. I believe that's been a huge, huge factor in my business success. And then second, finding a strategy that feels right to you. So whether it's authentic selling, or marketing, or choosing the right niche, and feeling like, okay, this is the direction. I know, this is at least where I want to get going right now. That doesn't mean that you can't stop and pivot in the future, just that here's an opportunity for you to start moving forward, because I promise you, a year from now, you'll wish that you had started this today. And I can say that from my own experience in beginning to move forward and really starting to feel the momentum of a business build. So, I said I get messages like this from pharmacists all the time. I don't even think this message was from an academy member. This was someone that was on the email list, that they had just felt like that I shared some stuff with them that gave them a confidence to work through some issues, and giving pharmacists a voice again. That's really something that spoke to me. So I like to take this time to kind of sit back, and I'd love for you, if you got a pen or piece of paper in front of you, to jot down a few things about what you actually want from your business. What is most important to you? So I mentioned the academy, one of our taglines is helping you become the pharmacist to call. And that means different things to different people. So maybe you want to build your reputation as a leader in your local community, if you're maybe a pharmacy owner. Or maybe that means that you want to put together an innovative model and go out and talk about it on stages at pharmacy organizations. Whether, leadership is your driving force, or, many of you tell me that freedom is an issue. A lot of you have young children like I do, and finding financial and time freedom is something that the reason you're building your business. It can be just about satisfaction and something new. It could be about finding your purpose. It can be about, shifting your, kind of day-to-day, not challenging career into something that is constantly and ever changing. So consulting I will be the first to say, is not some kind of turnkey model that you can just sign up with, you know, the academy, and I'm going to email you the keys to your business and you just plug it in and go. The consulting model is something that you have to take and make your own. So I can help you get to where you want to be, but it really takes some time for you to think and decide what that ultimate business looks like. So maybe it's a genomic consulting business. Maybe it's, you know, doing MTM for your local independent pharmacy owners. Maybe it's doing transitional care in a hospital setting, or doing consulting in a skilled nursing facility and using genomic testing in skilled nursing. So whatever your business model is, I want you to take a step back from that and think about what it is that you want for your business. Why did you build it in the first place? And that's going to be the thing that helps you keep going whenever you face rejection, or you don't feel like, you know, making that cold call, or writing that blog post, or, you know, creating your ebook, or whatever it may be. So think about what you really want from your business, because I think that you can become the pharmacist to call. You can gain respect, gain new opportunities every day. I'm here to say that what I put out into the universe has come back to me tenfold, and it's just been an amazing experience. Some things that you guys tell me is stopping you. So I asked you in these emails after you signed up for this webinar, what is holding you back from starting your business? So, you know, fear of not being an expert. And the action step for that would be identifying your opportunities and identifying what you can do and building your expertise in that specific subject. You don't have to be an expert on all things. We always, when my brother was little, and I think my daughter is going to be the exact same way, he would have the answer to everything. Even if it was wrong, he would say it like in such a matter-of-fact voice that you're almost like, is that wrong? So my dad started calling him an EOE. So that stood for expert on everything. And we all know that's not, you know, that's not what the goal of building a business is to become an expert on all things. But I do feel that you can identify a niche that you're interested in, and you can become very, very knowledgeable in that specific thing and build a business around that specific thing. Facing rejection. A lot of you told me that you were afraid to reach out to providers because you weren't sure what to say. And I think, as we talked about with integrating genomic testing into services, collaborative services, that speaking their language and speaking the language of quality is super, super important. So I want to kind of bring that back to, you know, if you're afraid of being rejected, just taking that step back in first identifying what their problems are. I always say you can't offer the solution to someone until you know what their problems are. So I think launching into your pitch before you know what the person's problems are could be a reason that's contributing to a failure rate. So selling, that is one of the biggest things for me, was a huge thing that was holding me back in my business. I would have never, ever, ever done a webinar like this. I would have never, you know, been able to make the kind of offers that I make, because I needed to reframe the selling process in my mind. So when I was working with Shane Sams, he, back in September of 2018, had asked me to change my pricing structure. And that was really scary for me. So when I started the Academy, it was built to be just an e-course. And then people kept coming back to me. They kept wanting, I want a new training on collaborative agreements. I want a new training on genomics. I want a new training on chronic care management, whatever it may be. So I kept adding to this course, and I kept increasing the price and increasing the price and increasing the price. And then I didn't want people to have to pay multiple times for every time I added to the course. So I've shifted it to a membership model, which is what it is now. So people can join and pay a monthly fee in order to continue to have access to all the new trainings I'm creating, like this new GXR PH business course, and also access the member forums and all that. But what he said was the e-course price had gone all the way up to $997 as I was building it out over the course of, I guess that was 3 years at the time. And he basically said, he was asking me about our results and what people, said about the course. And I told him, I said, we get great results for people and people rave about it. And the only feedback I get is sometimes it's too much information. And, I said, I'm very proud. And, I think it's worth at least $997. I think it's probably worth more than that. But, I don't want to price people out. And he said, I think what you've done is you've built this really cool thing. And as you keep building and keep building, you've increase the price and you've built this castle, these castle walls around your product, even though it can help people, it can get people great results. And he basically said, like, you need to get rid of the initial join fee and just do a flat monthly fee for membership. So I would have never done that if it hadn't been for him reframing that in my mind, that I'm not, I'm not helping anyone by increasing the price like that, even though we're adding to it. I want more people to join. So I thought people would rather have the upfront price and then pay a monthly, like a lower fee. So what he reframed for me, it has almost quadrupled our members since then, because more and more pharmacists are deciding, yes, I want in, that's going to be the solution to the problem that I'm facing right now. So reframing your offer, and then also using some of Nikki's sales strategies in order to feel like you can pitch yourself with confidence once you know what the person in front of you's struggle is. And then some analysis paralysis. I think that was also part of why I never moved forward with changing the price of the academy. That's what it had always been. I was overwhelmed by the idea of changing anything about it because I felt that it was working well. And so, getting that insight from mentors and saying, this is a self-limiting belief, here's how you need to overcome it. That's one thing, and I think Academy members will tell you that I try to pass on to members is, how to just start moving forward and get yourself out of that analysis paralysis. So as I mentioned, the two things that have had the biggest impact on my business have been mentorship and, hiring people who know more than I do to help me move forward and help me build skills in my business, and then support. So support from my mastermind friends, support in my business and building a team. Those have allowed me to focus on my genius, which is creating webinars like this and courses for you in the Academy members, and courses to help you take your business to the next level and start answering those questions about where you want to go. So I feel like the GXR PH business course was one of those things that when I sat down to write the outline for the GXR PH business course, I took into account a lot of the questions that you guys had sent me about pharmacogenomic consulting. And I also just kind of let, inspiration be my guide. And here's the things that, since building my business now for 3.5 years, here's what I want to download into your brain. Just knowledge I want you to go ahead and move forward with, that I think will help you in building the type of business you really want. So the GX business course is about best practices for setting up new client consultations. So I share the free software that I use in my genetic consults business in order to book new client consults, some strategies for effectively converting leads. So when you're on those consultation calls, converting them into paying clients or even long-term clients. So we talked about recurring revenue models for genomics consulting services, and that this includes some synergistic businesses and complementary services as well. Some secrets of social media and email marketing and webinars that can help you scale and grow your services. The basics of running a pilot program. I know if you're an Academy member, you know how much I preach pilot programs. Then the delivery options for genomic consultation. So many people ask, can I do this via telehealth, or does it have to be in person, or can I do it over the phone, or can I do it in a pharmacy? If I'm doing it in a physician's office, which codes can I bill for it? So these are the payment models that we talked about for delivery options, whether you're doing cash-based or trying to integrate it with an MTM program or even in a primary care setting. And then we talk a little bit more about the 3 business plans that we talked about today, the 3 approaches for different consulting models, and build those out a little bit further into what are the actual synergistic businesses, as I mentioned, like chiropractors and weight loss clinics and gyms and that kind of thing. So that'll make more sense when I show you this gene snip guide at the end. But I want you to be able to take these business plans and business models and then get your next step for going forward with your business. So what you'll get in this course is this GXR PH consulting course. It is available as a standalone course. So I put it up for sale on the BT Pharmacy Consulting site. You can get lifetime access to the course that's the audio files, the slides that I built with the course, and the video files. Plus, you're going to get all the downloads that I mentioned in the training, and you're also going to get a live Q&A call that I'm going to do on March 26th. So you'll get access to that Q&A call, where I think what we'll do is I will spend some time putting together all of my genomic test results, because one thing a lot of you ask me is, I've never seen a genetic result, or I've never seen that panel, or I'm not sure which panels to ask for. And that's another thing we talk about in the course, is which panels to use where. And so on the call, I'm going to walk you through some of those panels and talk about how to get yourself prepared for offering these consulting services to patients. Plus, it'll be an Ask Me Anything session that you'll be able to ask your questions after you've gone through the course. So the course is $347, and that's for lifetime access. So you get the videos, the audios, the slides, and all the downloads, and that's at btpharmacyconsulting.com. And then plus the live Q&A that I'll send out a link to in the next 48 hours, so that we're kind of going to do this group coaching type of model. Alternatively, if you are an Academy member already, or if you've been thinking about joining the Academy, this course is included as a member benefit. So if you're an Academy member, you've already got access to the course. I posted it in the forums yesterday morning. And so we'll be putting it in the course curriculum area very soon. But if you've been thinking about joining the Academy, you can also get access to lessons 1 through 12 in the e-course, access to the forums, access to the monthly member calls, and if you're already an Academy member, of course you're going to have access to this course plus the live Q&A call. So if you're not familiar with the Academy, we've got 12 lessons in the e-course. Those are our base lessons. So lesson 1, we really start from the very beginning in how to build your business. Should you choose an LLC or a sole proprietor? Or what are some things you need to get in terms of liability insurance? Lesson 2, we talk about some options for reimbursement. Lesson 3, we talk about crafting a value-based pitch and star ratings. These first 6 lessons are really focused on MTM consulting in the community pharmacy. So we talk about in lesson 4, optimizing your MTM program. Lesson 5 is like identifying issues with the MTM program and learning how to grow and scale that by bringing in support staff members. In lesson 6, we talk about personal branding and social media. In lessons 7 through 8, these are the more advanced trainings, and I would also consider GXR PH as to be kind of our lesson 13. But lesson 7, that's where we talked about the chronic care management codes. Lesson 8, we talked about collaborative practice agreements and transitional care management. Lesson 9, we talked about point of care testing and pharmacogenomic testing, specifically in the community pharmacy setting. Lesson 10, annual wellness visits. Lesson 11, macro MIPS. And then lesson 12, cash-based services. So the Farmerpreneur Academy, as I mentioned, will help you become the pharmacist to call no matter what kind of niche you're thinking about doing. So someone had sent me a message that thank you so much for all the information in the Academy. I joined about a week and a half ago, and since then I've zeroed in on services I want to focus on initially. I met with 3 physician offices today and have 3 more lunches set up over the next 2 weeks. And I love to see this, send me messages, because it really is about just going out there and trying to figure out what the needs are and what's going to work in your local community. So let me give you a brief tour real quick, and then we are going to spend some time talking about the Q&A and leave time for answering any questions. So this is the GXR PH course that I posted in the Academy forums. It's already in there. If you want to go in and you're already an Academy member, you can just go in and begin watching. These are long, so Module 1's 40 minutes, Module 2's 30, and Module 3 is 27 minutes. So when my website person will get them put into the course area, this is where you'll get access to the whole rest of the course. So lessons 1 through 12 are in there, and then the 2007 Summit replays and 2018 Summit replays. And then when we do get the 2019 Summit interviews up and running, those will be in there too. So I also mentioned the forums. The forums are places where you can go to post any questions that you have about consulting. We share wins. We do lots of fun stuff in the forum. And then we've also got the monthly member calls. So let me stop sharing real quick. Can I stop sharing? Okay, it's not going to let me stop sharing. But I'll go ahead, and if you have questions, go ahead and start posting them in the chat here, and I'd be happy to answer them. Some of the frequently asked questions that I had received kind of in advance was, what does pharmacogenomics look like in private practice? So what does billing for pharmacogenomic services look like? So I think in that question is, which panels should you be using for pharmacogenomic testing? So some providers, if you're working for a primary care physician, they may want the full gene panel. And then if you're working for someone in psych, they're probably only going to want a different panel that's only focused on the psychiatric drugs versus a cardiologist. They may only want a panel with the cardiovascular drugs. They may only want one gene to be tested at all, the 2C19 gene. So when people ask which labs or which gene panels they should choose, I think it also really goes back to what their needs are. So what does billing look like? So billing can be done, usually it's done through the lab company. So especially if you're working in private practice, the physician will order the test, because remember, for pharmacogenomic testing and billing insurance, the physician needs to order it. It's considered a medical 2 grade product. So they have to order the test, and then the lab will handle the billing. What we're seeing as pharmacists being able to interpret the test is when the test results come back, then the pharmacist will have a chance to sit down with the patient and offer the results interpretation. So most of the time what it would look like is an incident to billing code. So the pharmacist going into the physician's office, seeing the patient for a consultation, doing their consultation recommendations, whether it's part of a comprehensive med review or med rec or whatever. They're doing that consultation. They may be billing an incident to. So in a community pharmacy, what that could look like is it could be part of a CMR. It could be a cash-based service. So most of the genetic testing that we're seeing in community pharmacies are cash-based. Another question that I get is, which Medicare, Medicaid commercial policies will pay for it. So I share on the training, and you can also Google it. I don't know the site off the top of my head, but there you can Google MAC, which stands for Medicare Administrative Contractor, MAC Genomic Payment Map. And I believe it's maybe part of the Genomics website, but what it shows is a map of the United States. You can kind of scroll over it. It's an interactive map, and it will pop up which genes are actually covered in that specific MAC area. So you can kind of tell in advance whether or not your local Medicaid or Medicare MACs are going to pay for it. Medicaid, I think it definitely varies state by state, and what your state is going to be willing to pay for in terms of pharmacogenomic testing. I will say I have Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they did not pay for my genomic testing at all. And I talked about this a little bit more on the training, which is I did the test and had my PCP order the test, and so they billed my insurance for it. I actually paid for the test out of pocket, so I knew that the test had already been paid for, but they came and just to see for my own information if my insurance would go back and pay for it. So what the lab company had told me and what the people I was working with had told me was they have to submit a bill, even if, yes, thank you, Judy, that's the reimbursement map I was talking about. So what I was essentially told was that my lab was going to bill my insurance for the test, and if my insurance didn't pay for any of it, the lab was going to send me a bill seeking the difference in reimbursement, even though I'd already paid for the test, like paid cash for it 100% upfront. It was like $300 or $350. And so I'd already bought the test outright, so I knew I didn't owe anything for it. But when they tried to bill my insurance rejected all the claims, and they were billing for, I think it was almost like $300 per gene that they looked at. And I think they tested, I mean, it was like 25 genes or something. So the lab company sent me a bill for almost $3,500. And even though I knew that they had to, the lab has to attempt to collect, but they don't necessarily expect collection. I felt if I was working and I had a patient who received a bill like that, they would have called me livid that I asked them to do something that, that is going to cost them $3,400, even though the labs don't necessarily, they're not going to turn you over to collections or anything like that. They knew I'd already paid for it, but that's the structure that we're working with insurance. So I was like, okay, I may give people a super bill so that they can submit it on their own, but no longer am I going to collect somebody's insurance and try to facilitate their billing insurance for them. So I decided for me, it was cash and cash only. But there are different companies that can process your panels, can process your test. There's different prices for the test depending on, are you wanting 19 genes? Are you wanting 25 genes? Are you doing a nutrigenomic test? Are you doing pharmacogenomics? What exactly are you looking for? And I also answered some questions on the training about synergistic businesses. So we talked a lot, and I was really excited about this training because I felt like there was a lot of good ideas. I felt like I was kind of brainstorming with myself when it came to ideas about using this in like the functional medicine space, or using this in a chiropractor's office, or being able to integrate these genomic services with different stakeholders. So I was really excited about that. Oh, Judy also reminded me, share the quick reference guide. So if you guys don't have any questions, I will just go ahead and share that. So I answered kind of some of these most common questions. Here is the new guide to gene SNPs. So as I mentioned, depending on what the panels you're doing, you can kind of see the hepatic enzymes, of course, those are going to be the kind of the main ones we look at when it comes to the pharmacogenomic test. There may be some other ones in there, GRIC1 and OPRM and VCOR, and some of these that are on those pharmacogenomic gene tests, but they may be on some panels, they may not be on some other panels. Then there's some that specifically are more focused on in the nutrigenomic panel. So like the interleukins, that we're looking for that whenever it comes to autoimmune issues. The HLAs we're looking at for gluten intolerance. The MTHFR and the MTRR and MTHFS, those are all in the methylation panels and some of the issues we see on nutrigenomic tests. Then there's also these new tests that, if you've done any of the direct-to-consumer tests, they will say, stuff about how you respond to caffeine and how you respond to exercise or a certain diet. So these are some of the different SNPs that they're talking about when they say, oh, your exercise tolerance has to do with your VEGF gene or whatever. So if you want to print this out, a resource that I really like is omim.org. And that has to do with the Human Genome Project. So it's essentially kind of like Google for these gene SNPs. So you can type in these letters for the gene SNPs, or you can search one of the words in here and see, what the clinical correlations are for a mutation in the NAT2 gene, or a mutation in, some of your thyroid, like as someone mentioned the DIO2. So that's a thyroid gene that has to do with converting. I think it uses selenium and converts stuff to active T3. So you can use that site. Again, it's omim.org. And that's going to give you basically access to be able to search all of these. So I tried to break them down into the way that my brain thinks of them. I actually just took my genetic spreadsheet and I picked out the top 70 or so of these. I think there's about 70 here, and put them on this one that looks a little bit prettier. So what I would do if I was sitting down with a patient, I would go through their results, and anywhere I saw, oh, you've got a mutation in the HLA DQA1 gene. So I would circle that, and then I might write gluten out to the side, or, I would circle if they have an MTHFR mutation, then I would circle that, and I would write, methylated folic acid, or, whatever it may be. So for a lot of these, it's helpful to just kind of go through and get yourself familiar with them, but they'll also give you ideas about, like, oh, I didn't know that, that's what that was linked to, or whatever. So for me, whenever I was searching and putting this list together, a lot of this stuff I found really cool, and I nerded out a lot on, whenever I found what mutations in C-reactive protein were correlated with for inflammation. So I'm like, oh, all of this stuff makes so much sense when you can look at it from like a 30,000 foot view. So again, I will be sending you guys a copy of this. It should, I think I sent it in my last email, but I'll send another copy of this into my next email to you, basically just inviting you to make a decision. Are you ready to join the Academy and work with me one-on-one and get the support of the other Academy members? You can see some of the Academy members in here in the chat and how amazing they are. So if you purchase either, whether you join the Academy or you want to get lifetime access to the Genomic Consults business course, you'll get access to our live call, but you've got to purchase in the next 48 hours so that I can keep track of it, because I am about to leave on vacation to South Africa. So you'll be well taken care of in the Academy. I've already got some stuff set up that will be going out, but I would like to have all of the customer service issues taken care of and done in the next 48 hours. So if you have questions, all you have to do is respond to one of my emails and let me know, and then you can get access to that special live call with me. So I'll be announcing that here in probably the next week or so. I'd like to get that scheduled, and it's looking like March 26th, I believe. That's a Tuesday evening. So you'll get access to that. If anyone, Jamie shared the omim.org website. Thank you for sharing that, Jamie. I think that's such a fun website. Like I spent several hours on it, just Googling like all of these different SNPs and putting together which ones I thought were my favorite and which ones I thought were the most clinically relevant to us. So I would love for you guys, if you have any questions, like I said, just hit reply to any of my emails. If you're ready to join the Academy, you can do so at any time. So it's $197 to join the Academy and get access to the new GXR PH training course, plus lessons 1 through 12 in the Academy, and the member forums and our monthly member calls. If you aren't quite ready for that and you just want to get more information about building a genomics consulting business, highly recommend the GXR PH consulting business course, and that is a standalone course. It is now available on my website. If you go to btpharmacyconsulting.com/GXRPH, you can get this business course as a standalone. Again, that includes your video files, audio files, because some of you told me that you like to download the audio files and listen on your drive to work. That is totally cool. I am in the same boat. So you can get all of that plus the downloads that I mentioned on the trainings here in this standalone e-course. So if you don't have any questions, I want to thank you guys for joining me here this afternoon. It was a lot of fun because I will tell you, I shot like a evergreen webinar that I'm going to be running some Facebook ads to pretty soon. And it was so boring whenever I was here, like all by myself. I used this webinar software. I shot it just like this, but it was a different feel because I was just talking to myself. I wasn't talking to the people that had joined me. So thank you guys so much for your time and your attention. Thank you guys that have been active in the chat. Lauren, Judy, Matthew, Jamie, all you guys here from the Academy, Danielle, thank you guys for coming. I hope that this training kind of got you thinking about the different approaches and what's going to work best for you and your business. And I would love to hear, once you've had a chance to go through the GXR PH business course, what your thoughts are on it. And let's have that conversation in the thread, in the forum thread right below where I posted the modules. I'd love to hear your feedback and any additional questions you have. So thank you guys so much for spending some time with me. It was always a pleasure. And I really think that you guys are amazing and y'all are the leaders in the pharmacy profession. So thank you so much for being here with us. And I really appreciate your time and attention. Take care.